My face.
Yeah, that's why we put
Look
you.
very good.
Trust me.
What?
FDC owner.
That is correct.
Much for agreeing to have this interview with us. You are part of FDC and obviously looking into this issue around the industrial park for the Botshabelo area. If you can just tell us, what are the challenges that you have come across while trying to lift this project off the ground?
The park is quite old. It's approximately 36 years old, and there hasn't been adequate maintenance over the years. And I think the maintenance regime has been lacking. So when we found it, it's been a little bit in a dilapidated state. But when I started 11 months ago, there was already in progress phase 1 or phase 2 of the revitalization program. So it's getting there, but lack of money to do what we need to do is really a challenge. It's really lack of funding, because you can fix something to a point, but this requires serious capital intervention, and that is a challenge that we have.
So far, how much has government injected into this project?
So far, phase 1 and 2, approximately just under 70 million rand, 69 million rand, I think. That's what they've injected in the revitalization program.
And what have you managed to do with it so far?
So far, the fencing, the security fence around the park is completed. The security CCTVs and the control room, those are done. And there's some of the factories, the roof has been fixed. Some electrical components have also been replaced. So, and unfortunately, it's done on a piecemeal basis, on a factory by factory basis, due to the funding constraints.
When it comes to employment, I understand that it is projected to employ at least 10,000 people to work here. So far, I understand that you are looking at around 7,000, 7.5. Aren't you concerned about that number, especially for such a big community at a time where we're facing such a high unemployment rate? Do you think that more can be done to, try and get more people to be employed, and is it possible?
Absolutely. At peak, this industrial park is to employ over 10,000 people. This is when it was still new in the late 80s, early 90s. And I think it can get back to the heydays of those days. There's enough demand for industrial space, for manufacturing, warehousing, and the like. And we do have 25% vacancy rate in this park. So I think, and these are quite large factories of about 2,500 square meters. So I think that it is possible with the revitalization and the upgrade of some of these factories. We'll be able to put more people into space and employ more people from the communities, and more importantly, create more entrepreneurs of maybe of female kind, our women, and the youth. And that's what we are targeting to put into these factories.
What has the response been from investors?
The investors, funny enough, we are in the middle of a pandemic at the moment, but we thought that the response would be quite low. We actually have a good pipeline of interest. The only challenge that we have, it might be affordability of rentals. Some of the business cases are not that fundable, but what we do, we try and work with them and take the risk away, because we can't put people in the factories who can't afford to pay us rental, because we have to comply with the National Credit Act. So, but what we do, we try and find ways to move the risk away from them, such that we are able to put them in through facilitation by the parent department and other ways of just making sure that the risk of default moves away from our clients. So it is possible, and we are working on. I think that by this time next year, we'll be looking at the park that's 95, 98% full.
What kind of businesses have we seen so far, or investors who have come and who've occupied one of your factories here?
Yeah. So most of the factories are occupied by people in fashion, textiles. There's a big food processing, which is chicken, that supplies all the outlets, Nando's, Chicken Licken. It's a big one that employs about 2,000 people. There's various kinds. There's even the one that does the manufacture caskets. So it's all kinds. It's all kinds of manufacturing that's happening inside the park.
Inside, I heard during the report saying that this project was meant to employ more women and mainly young people, and it seems as if it hasn't done so. Aren't you concerned that at this pace that you have not reached those people in which this project was envisioned to attract?
No, absolutely. A lot of people who are here have been here for quite a while, so historically, and they're typically male sort of dominated companies. So we're saying with the space that's now available, we'll be focusing more on trying to get more women and the youth into these spaces. And the various interventions that we're looking at, including support from the parent department to try and fund clusters or put group of people, maybe subdivide the factory, put small, give them small little spaces of the metering so that they can operate their own businesses in those things. So we're looking at all kinds, but also looking at, for example, there's a few in the pipeline. There are ladies who want to manufacture sanitary pads. They've already got the market, but at the moment someone else is manufacturing for them. So we are looking at putting them in with their own machines and their own operating capacity for them to supply the same markets they're supplying. And this is a consortium of women who already have a market. So I'm very excited about that one, and I think hopefully once when we open that project, we'll invite you to come and see. Yeah, I'm very excited about that.
At the same time, there are obviously these allegations saying that this project has taken so long, so much money has been spent. It has only managed to employ just over 7,000 people. You know, there are elements of corruption. What do you say to those allegations? That's saying that, well, there seems to be a bit of maladministration here when you're looking at this project where most of the money has gone towards the fencing and security and the roofing and not the actual project.
No, you see, the park was developed in 1985 by the then administration, and then over time it fell into state of neglect. And the reason being that some of the tenants left, went to neighboring provinces, went to neighboring countries, leading to the vacancy rate that we saw. Now, when factories are empty, people will come in and vandalize and steal cables and do all of those things. But also I think the responsibility, the province, or rather the FDC, should have done better to maintain the park and make sure that it continues to occupy, to avoid the situation where these things the property is vandalized and equipment is stolen. When it comes to revitalizing, the 69 million rand was ready to catch up with the backlog maintenance, which was not done for over many years. So that is what the DTS is assisting us with. And in that regard, there's been quite a number of local small SMMEs that benefited from construction job as and when the fence was being put up, the CCTVs were put up, and that are working on replacing the roofs of the factories and other electrical components. So there is some work that's been done, but as far as corruption is concerned, I wouldn't say there was. And in fact, what's happening is, I'm happy that I'm not railing out the project. This is done by the DTIC through the DBSA, but using the local contractors on the ground. So I don't think there's any corruption, otherwise I think we would have heard about it.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, there's nothing else.
Okay, thank you.
Super. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right. So